Black Clover Chapter 368 left us with a huge set of blue balls that's only made worse when you realize that Asta and Yuno are currently teaming up, and we won't see this next phase in the battle until 3 months later because Black Clover is leaving Weekly Shonen Jump and is going to Giga Jump magazine, which comes out quarterly. But given the recent health issues of Tabata and his family, this is something that was absolutely needed. However, Tabata decided to make this last entry in Weekly Shonen Jump a memorable one when we look at the chapter that we've been given. So with the initial thoughts out of the way, let's back things up and let's dive into the recap portion of the review before we unpack the chapter itself, which in of itself is pretty straightforward. This was a really quick chapter to get through. So the chapter opens up with the continuation of Yami versus Morgan, with Morgan giving Yami a compliment for how strong he's gotten in the years since his death. However, Morgan reveals he's got another gear left in him and busts out the second magic that Lucius has bestowed upon Morgan. And in this one moment, Lucius has just cemented himself as the biggest troll in Black Clover. The man gave Morgan dark magic, the very magic that Yami himself wields, and Morgan has been gassed up to the point he's telling Yami he's now become the strongest magic knight, and he proceeds to start pressuring Yami heavily to a point that Yami is getting overwhelmed by the attacks that are coming. And this is even more heartbreaking when you look back in the series itself and you realize the significance of Morgan's statement saying he's now become the strongest magic knight without Yami's help. Not to be outdone, Yuno is bravely continuing the fight against Lucius, and despite the clear disadvantage that Yuno has in this fight, Yuno continues to fight on while everyone's watching, and Yuno is doing everything he can to prevent a solid hit being landed on him, because if it does land, it results in Neverland coming unravel in the process. Lucius knows that this is definitely the case and sees Yuno beginning to struggle, and this leads to Lucius taunting Yuno now that he smelled blood in the water like a shark, and he tells him that the world's finally about to end. However, before Yuno can reply, a voice calls out that the world isn't ending yet, and we see the Black Bulls rushing towards the scene for backup, and it's in this one moment Lucius' worst possible outcomes actually arrive. Asta's back, he's got the Black Bulls coated in anti-magic, and he's got Vanessa once again looking like a whole snack in that brand new outfit that should make every straight male looking at it, good lord, look at her go. And now Asta's about to assist Yuno, which means that the Neverland spell and any star magic that Yuno has, used in conjunction with Asta's anti-magic, is going to lead to a major set of problems for the rogue wizard king Lucius. Asta makes it clear with his arrival that the true fight is finally about to begin, and Lucius is now on notice. The rest of the fallout of the Black Bulls showing up spreads over to Nocta and Ichika showing up to give Yami the assist against Morgan, which is going to be one extremely impressive battle, not just for the combination attacks we're going to see, but also because of the narrative that's being set up here, where it's all siblings in this battle. We then shift over to Asta, who takes a moment to speak to Yuno, and we see the all ever so powerful handy dandy rivalry boost that tends to be shown so many times in shonen. With Asta's arrival, Yuno now has his second win, with Asta basically going, dude, I can't believe you're about to lose this guy. Sure, I might have lost this guy before, you might have heard about that, but this time's totally gonna be different. Get your weight up, kid. And Yuno's basically like, hey, I still got another gear in me, and the two of them, they charge forward at Lucius, declaring that the one that brings him down will be the one who goes on to become the Wizard King, and Lucius looks completely unfazed. He's smiling at the two of them like, children, please. So with the recap done, the immediate first reaction and first question that we have to ask is, going into this, where exactly is Adrenaline? Because this man was implied to have had a different motive than Lucius, and Lucius is now about to face his worst nightmare. This is not a timeline that Lucius foresaw. Yuno was never supposed to be this strong. The Black Bulls are now using anti-magic, the one thing that Lucius is wary about, and Asta is likely gonna share some of that love with Yuno, who was already someone that Lucius had gone as far as to call a natural enemy for himself. Now he has both his natural enemies on the battle, one with star magic and one who has anti-magic, and Asta clearly has some new tricks up his sleeve that Lucius needs to be worried about. The idea these two are going to walk up to Lucius as he's floating up high in the sky and drag him out of that throne is definitely a possibility. On the other hand, Morgan fighting the Yami siblings and his own brother Nocta has the potential to be a very intense battle on an emotional level, just given Noct's whole backstory with his brother and the whole dynamic between Yami and Ichika and the closure we're going to get and the resolution that is likely coming with their story arc as that battle progresses, because this is a shonen, so that resolution is going to come in the form of a battle. Not necessarily between the two of them, but them fighting alongside each other. I think another thing that we have that is very clear is this chapter definitely marks the start of the climax itself. That's not to say the story's going to be wrapping up in 3 to 4 chapters, but rather this is the start of Tabata closing the last 2 plot holes that we actually have left, or rather the most important of the unexplored material. I don't think everything that's unexplored is going to get fully invested into the story in these last chapters. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think he's going to take the most important stuff and explore it itself. And I think it's fitting, just given that the title is literally a Japanese expression referring to a new beginning, which is what Black Clover is about to have now that it's moving on to Jump Giga to wrap up the story. Now, the other thing that stands out is the choice of Morgan to have both light and dark magic, and I think it's symbolic for a few reasons. Look at the people he's fighting. Each of them have either been in darkness or they found a new light after they came out of that darkness. Noct was in the darkness following his brother's death and found light eventually through Yami and the lovable misfits that are known as the Black Bulls. Yami and Ichika each have a shared darkness from the Yami clan massacre and their upbringing with their abusive father, and they each found light in the Black Bulls and the Ryus and Seven respectively. Yet each of these 3 has still not fully stamped out the darkness inside of them. They each still have some form of baggage, and Morgan can be used in a battle setting wielding light magic to eventually indirectly be the catalyst for the light that is purging out the remaining darkness inside each of the trio, with each of them eventually playing a role in Morgan's defeat. It's really poetic when you sit down and you think about that. Now, speaking of poetic, I think one of the next matchups that we can expect is probably Vanessa helping Noelle in her fight, because a seer versus Noelle is very important, but Vanessa was one of the first Black Bulls to bond with Noelle and help her find her place in the squad, so it makes sense for her to be there narratively as Noelle ultimately takes down her mother. I'm honestly more invested in that battle than seeing Lucius in a battle with 2 boys who grew up in a church where the whole goal is for a grown man to touch them for obvious reasons. We've seen what happens when Lucius gets a lock on someone and he wants to turn them into a paladin, and you think you see the value in a paladin Yuno. I think another thing we have here is the fact that Morgan having a new magic, dark magic, means we can safely cross Lucifugus off of the list of devil mythology, which makes me wonder if there's gonna be something else brought up in the Land of Sun, because narratively it makes sense for it to actually happen here, where you have 2 people from the Land of Sun, which was home to the underworld dragon, and you have the 2 brothers Noct and Morgan, who, you know, kind of sort of dabbled in underworld stuff because of their family. Tabata is cooking something up here, and not just because Lucius is smiling on his throne at the sight of Asta, likely hinting that he's got something up his sleeves that we don't know yet, potentially another transformation. Most importantly, Noct having to face his brother means that he's now going to have to face and conquer his inner demons at once. This is going to be good, which brings me to my chapter question. Out of all the battles we have left, which are you most excited about? Finally, Black Clover might be moving to a quarter release, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stop Black Clover content. I've got a few scripts left to record for Black Clover character videos and more lore videos, so expect more character video essays like I did when I first started covering Black Clover again here on this channel, which you can check out that playlist that you see on the screen now if you haven't already.